At Christmas, my niece got a $3,500 Disneyland trip and a hug from mom saying, "You deserve the world." My son got a $5 gift card and a lecture on gratitude. I smiled, packed our bags, and left that night. A week later, my parents called me in tears. The words hit me like a physical blow. "It's decided. Your sister gets your luxury SUV." That Sunday, my family didn't just try to take what was mine, they tried to erase me. But they had no idea I was armed with a secret weapon, a thin, gray folder, packed with years of silent, simmering rage. Let me set the scene. My name's Simon. I'm 36, and I run a travel company. We build custom tours, for families, for corporate teams. My life? It's a constant juggle, half the year living out of a backpack, answering emails from airport lounges. I can pack a carry-on in 8 minutes flat, no joke. In my family, I'm the organized one. Which, let's be real, is just code for the guy who always pays, fixes everything, drives everyone around, and apologizes for things he didn't even do. I'm the oldest. Then there's my sister, Tessa, she's 32, with 2 kids. My parents live just 20 minutes away. Sunday lunch? That's my ritual. Always has been. I usually show up with dessert, the really good coffee, and, more often than not, extra car seats because someone inevitably needs a ride home. But this Sunday? I brought something entirely different. A folder. This thin, ugly, gray thing that stuck out like a sore thumb against my mom's pristine fancy plates and those fake flowers she loves. I set it on the chair next to me, trying so hard not to even glance at it. I kept telling myself, "Simon, you won't need it. We're family. We can talk like adults." Spoiler alert? We absolutely did not. My dad, true to form, waited. He waited until the roast chicken was carved, until everyone's mouths were full. Then he tapped his glass with a fork, exactly like a bad comedian about to launch into his set. "All right," he announced, "it's decided." He didn't even glance at me. His eyes swept past Mom, then Tessa, then landed on Uncle Ron, who was already smirking, like they all shared some hilarious secret. Dad cleared his throat, enjoying his moment. "Your sister gets your SUV, Simon. She has kids. She needs the space." The room didn't go silent. Oh no. It erupted in agreement. Nods. Murmurs. My mom chimed in, of course, as if this was the most logical conclusion ever. Tessa's husband, Dan, barely looked up from his phone, grunting, "Makes sense." And Tessa? She let out this huge exhale, like a massive weight had just vanished. A weight, I might add, she never even bothered to lift. I just blinked. Once. Twice. "My SUV?" I asked, my voice flat, trying to process if this was real life. "The one registered to my company? The one I use to shuttle clients?" Dad just huffed. "Company, schmompany. It just sits in your driveway. Your nephew's stroller doesn't fit in our hatchback. Use your sedan for work." My mom instantly jumped in, "Be reasonable, Simon. You're single. You don't need luxury." Tessa, the queen of passive aggression, just shrugged. "You can afford another one. Don't be so dramatic." Something in my chest tightened, a familiar pressure, but my voice came out calm. Too calm. "You decided this without me." Dad's jaw visibly clenched. "Don't start. Family looks out for family, right?" I said, a dangerous edge creeping into my tone. Family looks out for family. And that's when my hand instinctively reached for that ugly gray folder. "Funny you should mention kids," I said, my voice cutting through the fake niceties as I slid the folder onto the table. "Because here's what Tessa did with the last car someone let her borrow." Dan's scrolling finger froze mid-screen. My mom's fork, piled with roast chicken, stopped inches from her mouth. Tessa's smile, that smug little smirk, tried desperately to cling to her face. It failed. Spectacularly. I flipped the folder open. Inside were printed emails, cold insurance forms, the official police report, and photos, graphic, undeniable photos. A crumpled hood. A twisted street sign. The ghostly, chemical dust of exploded airbags. Uncle Ron, bless his nosy heart, leaned in without an invitation. He actually gasped when he saw that first picture. "Oh wow." Tessa's voice went tiny, barely a whisper. "Simon." I didn't say another word. Not yet. I just let those pages lie there, right in the middle of the table, next to the gravy boat, a stark contrast to the carefully curated family narrative they love to tell. I just kept breathing. In. Out. My therapist's voice echoed in my head, state facts, not feelings, when they tried to rewrite history. Every single time I'd swallowed that familiar, infuriating phrase, it's decided. I looked at my sister, at my parents, at the gaping, emotional void my silence used to instantly fill. And for the first time in years, I didn't rush to plug it. From the outside, my job looks pretty glamorous, right? You see the Santorini photos, clients tagging me in their honeymoon posts, maybe a fancy hotel upgrade on Instagram. But the brutal truth? It's spreadsheets, insane margins, and waking up at 3 a.m. to reroute a family because their toddler spiked a fever before a flight to Lisbon. I literally built this company from a tiny desk in a cramped rental apartment, a squeaky chair, and a neighbor who thought midnight was prime drumming time. I'd take calls on my lunch breaks from my old job, then quit and took 2 part-time gigs just to keep the lights on. I learned to sell, to negotiate, to apologize with my whole damn spine. And through all that, my family learned one crucial thing about me: I would always say yes. Simon, can you float us until Friday? Dad would text. Simon, daycare just raised rates. Can you help? That was Tessa. Simon, your grandmother's hearing aids, Mom would add, almost as an afterthought. And I'd say yes. Because I remembered what it felt like to have nothing. Because I genuinely thought that's what the oldest kid did. Because I was so damn proud I could help. Those small things? They snowballed. Gas money became a car payment. That car payment became me co-signing on Tessa's compact when she was between jobs. That compact? Eventually, it led to the SUV. Because I was the one between cars after an airport shuttle dinged my old one, and insurance decided to play games. I told myself the SUV would be practical for luggage. And it was. But it also quickly morphed into the family moving van, the Saturday Costco train, the emergency late-night taxi for Dan when he drank too much with his buddies. Family looks out for family, Dad would always say, like a stamp on every single invoice I never sent. And here's the worst part, I kept track. I had this quiet, secret spreadsheet. Never showed anyone. Dates. Amounts. Reasons. I wasn't doing it to collect. I was doing it to convince myself I wasn't crazy, that the slow, steady financial bleed I felt wasn't just my imagination. Every single ask came with a subtle shift in their mood. If I even hesitated, Tessa would tilt her head, "Wow, you've changed." Mom would sigh dramatically, "We're not asking for a yacht, Simon." And Dad's voice would get hard. "After all we did for you." Then, I finally landed my company's first massive corporate client, a software team needing a retreat in Majorca. My parents threw a celebration dinner. The dessert came with a "by the way." "Your sister's car is on its last legs," Mom said, casually slicing cake. "Maybe the right thing is to upgrade for the kids." "Simon knows what to do," Dad declared, beaming. "He's successful." Tessa even had the nerve to laugh. "You know, I'd do the same for you," she chirped, like it was a joke with a sweet, happy ending. I bought that SUV. Not for Tessa. For my work. I loved the safety, the generous space for client luggage, the way it ate up those crappy roads near the airport hotels. I let Tessa use it sometimes. Because, you know, car seats. Because sometimes is a word that quietly erodes when you don't stand up and defend it. And then came the incident. The thing that made it into that gray folder. A midnight call. Tessa, sobbing. "It's not that bad," she kept saying, "it just looks worse than it is." I heard a street name I recognized. Sirens in the background. Dan, already yelling at some imaginary culprit he shouldn't have parked there. Repeating it like that would magically make a bent stop sign stand up straight. I drove over in my own dinged-up sedan. The SUV she crashed? Not ours. It was Dan's friend's car, a loaner. Tessa had clipped a curb, gone airborne, and head-on kissed a pole. Airbags deployed, smoke everywhere. Thankfully, the kids were safe at home. But her excuse the next day? The steering just fell off. The police, polite but firm, made one thing clear: she'd been drinking. The friend's insurance company called me. Because guess who was still the emergency contact on everything? "Your family," they said. "We figured you'd want to help smooth this over." The friend later said, "It's fine. We're cool, but with that specific, icy edge that screams, it's absolutely not fine, and we are not cool." Tessa swore up and down she'd pay the deductible. "We'll handle it," Dan promised. I watched that promise drift away, like a balloon someone intentionally let go of. I checked my spreadsheet. Added a new line. I didn't tell my parents about the drinking. I told myself I was protecting her. I told myself it wasn't my job to ignite a house fire. But small fires kept burning anyway. A mysterious $600 vanished from Mom's vacation fund. My name suddenly appeared on the vendor list for a school fundraiser, and the donation was charged to my card. Dan borrowed my business credit card to hold a hotel reservation, then forgot to cancel. It sat there, a tiny, financial parasite, until my accountant finally flagged it. And then, the ultimate slap in the face, I wasn't even invited to my own erasure. I found out from a cousin's Instagram post about a family planning chat for big decisions. There was a screenshot of a group video call, everyone's smiling faces in neat little boxes. Mine? Conspicuously absent. The caption, "Teamwork makes the dream work." The very next morning, Mom called, acting like nothing was amiss. "Sunday lunch, same time," she chirped. "Oh, and Tessa's stroller situation is a nightmare. We'll talk then." I put that folder together that afternoon. Not because I wanted to explode, but because I was so utterly, profoundly tired of being the only person who remembered the truth. I printed the police report. I printed the email chain where I'd apologized to Dan's friend for something I didn't do. I printed my own meticulously maintained spreadsheet. I wasn't planning a speech. I was planning to stop pretending. Just one more thing happened before Sunday. My operations manager, Leah, pulled me aside after a staff meeting. She was gentle, but her words hit hard. "Simon," she said, "you've been taking calls in the hall. You disappear. You come back angry or just empty. We cover for you. But that's not in our job description." I opened my mouth to argue, then just closed it. "Simon," she pressed, "we like you. We like this company. Please, stop bleeding for people who cut you." I went home that day and looked at the folder again. It just looked back. Back at the table, those damning photos just sat there, between the gravy boat and the bread basket, a horrifying guest with absolutely no manners. No one touched a roll. My dad pointed a shaky finger at the police report. "What is this?" he demanded. I kept my voice flat, emotionless. "Tessa crashed a friend's car after drinking. Last fall. She told me to keep it quiet." Mom gasped, a theatrical sound, like I'd just sworn in church. "Don't say drinking," she almost shrieked, eyes wide. Like she was, "The breathalyzer number is on page 2, I interjected, cutting her off cold. Tessa's cheeks flushed crimson. It was my birthday dinner. I was under the limit when I left. And the curb was weird. Dan, ever her loyal defender, piped up, "Yeah, the alignment was trash," as if he'd personally inspected it. Uncle Ron, meanwhile, let out a low, impressed whistle. "Those airbag photos. Yikes." Dad snapped, "Ron." Then he rounded on me, his face a mask of furious indignation. "What's your point, Simon? To humiliate your sister? We're talking about the SUV." "Exactly," I shot back. "The SUV that's owned by my company. The SUV that's insured commercially. The SUV you just casually allocated, like it's the last piece of pie you get to decide who eats." Mom leaned forward, her hands folded primly, playing the concerned talk show host. "Simon, we're not monsters. We're being practical. Kids, strollers, life." Tessa rolled her eyes at me. "This is why you're single, you know. You care more about paperwork than people." I let that one slide. Instead, I calmly slid out the second stack of papers. My spreadsheet. I'd highlighted 3 years of Venmo transfers, notes like groceries, urgent for the kids, receipts for soccer fees, an invoice I'd paid for a plumber who didn't take cards. The grand total at the bottom? It looked like the price of a decent used car. Dad scoffed, waving his hand dismissively. "What is this, an audit? Families don't send invoices." "Families also don't take what isn't offered," I replied, my voice steady. "But you do. And then you call it generosity on my part, so you can call it entitlement if I ever dare to stop." Mom's voice turned sickly sweet. "Simon, sweetheart, we're all just so tired. You're stressed. You're making money. You can handle it. Tessa and Dan are just starting out. We already did all this for you." "No," I said, the word quiet, yet sharp. "You didn't. You lent me $400, 11 years ago, and I paid you back in 2 weeks." Dad's face tightened dangerously. "Watch your tone." Tessa slammed her palm on the table, her face contorted in anger. "This is insane. We came to talk like grown-ups. You brought props. I looked right at her. You brought a decision. Dan shifted awkwardly. Look, man, she needs a bigger car. The kids, I cut him off, reaching for the final document. The insurance letter. My company's name bolded at the top. The part about non-permitted drivers and policy voids. If Tessa drives the company SUV and, God forbid, she hurts someone, I stated, each word slow and deliberate, the claim goes through my commercial policy. If she's over the limit again, my company eats it. My employees eat it. My clients eat it. And I am not feeding anyone that. The room finally went quiet. Not busy with murmurs. Quiet. A heavy, absolute silence. Dad, ever the strategist, tried one last angle. What kind of brother are you, Simon? I looked him straight in the eye. The kind who's done being a wallet. My mom's eyes flashed with indignant fury. After everything we invested in you. In me? I countered, my voice rising slightly. You invested in my sister's birthday parties, dance bar tabs, and the new patio furniture you put on hold on my credit card. I invested in flights, refunds, and emergency hotels for strangers who become repeat clients and keep my team paid. Those, Mom, are very different investments. Tessa finally swallowed, looking utterly defeated. So, it's a no? It's a no, I affirmed, the words feeling like pure freedom. You don't get my SUV. You don't get my yes by ambush. And you don't get my silence anymore. Uncle Ron, God bless him, chimed in softly, almost to himself, good for you, kid. Dad stood up so fast his chair screeched across the floor. If you walk out of here with that attitude, don't come crawling back when you need us. I calmly picked up the gray folder. I haven't needed you, I said, pausing at the doorway, since I learned to make instant noodles. Tessa's voice cracked then, a genuine sound of pain. You're punishing me for one mistake. I stopped. It's not one, I clarified, my voice low and firm. It's the pattern where I pay and you pretend it's kindness. This time, I brought pictures. I walked out. I sat in my SUV in their driveway for a long, long time. Engine off. It was that kind of profound quiet where you can hear your own pulse thrumming in your ears. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from the sheer force of finally saying everything I'd held back for so long. Leah texted, "How did it go?" I typed back, I didn't hand them the keys. She immediately sent a clapping emoji. Then your 10 a.m. tomorrow, the school travel council? You okay to present? I stared at the dashboard. I felt weirdly light. Yeah, I wrote. I can do that. The fallout started before I even reached the end of their street. My phone buzzed like crazy. The family group chat, the one I was apparently still in. Mom, your behavior today was cruel. Dad, you embarrassed your sister. Tessa, I can't believe you would bring that up in front of Uncle Ron. Dan, bro, not cool. I didn't answer a single one. I just archived the entire thread. Then, a text from an unknown number popped up. Hey, Simon. It's Laura. We met at Tessa's last Christmas. I'm Ron's daughter. Just wanted to say, proud of you. Somebody had to say it. I honestly didn't know what to do with that, so I just put my phone face down and drove straight to the car wash. It felt like a ritual, a cleansing. I vacuumed out the sand that had been there since a client beach day. I wiped sticky fingerprints from the rear window, definitely not from any child I knew. I reset the seat positions back to mine. Back home, I opened my laptop and did something petty that felt like necessary surgery. I removed Dad, Mom, Tessa, and Dan from the trusted contacts on my roadside assistants. I changed the gate code at my place. I called my insurance and updated the list of permitted drivers to just one, me. I texted Leah and asked her to get company decals on the SUV this week. Make it undeniably, obviously not a family car. Make it mine. No, even better, ours. The team's. Mom called, of course. I let it go to voicemail. Her message was a masterclass in emotional manipulation. She cycled through tones, hurt, concern, then pure, cold logistics. The kids will suffer, she concluded, a chilling pronouncement. And when they ask why Uncle Simon doesn't love them, I hope you have an answer. I walked around my apartment afterwards, touching things like they were new. The kettle I bought secondhand. The couch that had cradled me, exhausted, after a client had screamed at me over a seat map. The framed photo of my team at our first real office party. We looked tired, yes, but proud, and a little stunned by how far we'd come. The next morning, I presented to the school council. And you know what? I didn't think about the SUV once. I talked about safe itineraries, complex insurance, and what you do when a 12-year-old swallows a marble in Madrid. People laughed. People nodded. I remembered, truly remembered, why I built this whole damn thing. So families can see the world without falling apart at the airport. After the meeting, a mom stopped me. "We've heard great things about you," she said warmly. "From Leah. She said you show up." She handed me a deposit check right there, amidst the lingering cafeteria smell. My hands were steady when I took it. That week, Dan started texting. Then calling. Then texting again. "We can work something out," he wrote. "Maybe we can lease your SUV from you." Lease, as if putting a new word on the old problem would magically change it. I didn't reply. Tessa sent a ridiculously long message that started with, "You humiliated me," and somehow ended with, "Fine, keep your stupid car." But right in the middle, she wrote, "You think saying no makes you strong, but it just makes you lonely." I stared at that sentence for a long, long time. Because that was the one that always used to work on me. My reply was one line. Saying no makes room. My dad, of course, tried the loneliness dagger too. "Your mother is not sleeping," he said over the phone, as if her insomnia was just another invoice for me to pay. "Is this really the man you want to be?" I said, yes. And he hung up. There were other consequences, too, the kind you can't jot down in a ledger. Mom instantly created a separate group chat without me and, oh, the irony, she named it family. Uncle Ron, still with that sense of dramatic flair, sent me a screenshot. In it, they were writing things like, "We can't rely on Simon anymore," and, "We need a plan B." The part that both hurt and healed was Ron's reply to them, "Plan B is everyone paying for their own stuff like adults." Yep, those decals were a good idea. When I pulled into the office, my SUV had my company name boldly displayed on the doors. It looked like a statement. It looked like a decision. We reworked our internal processes. No more courtesy shuttles for relatives. No more just this once card holds. I even brought my spreadsheet to my accountant. "Do I need to do anything formal about these?" I asked, pointing to the columns. She glanced at the numbers, then at me, a small smile playing on her lips. "Just stop adding lines," she said simply. That Friday, my cousin Mia called. She whispered into the phone like we were in a spy movie. "I'm so sorry about my mom," she said. "She's been parroting your parents for years. It's like a script." She paused, then added, I think you just gave me permission to stop doing that myself." Later, she left the family chat. And she texted me a screenshot. "Oops," she wrote. Tessa didn't crash again. She did something far more profound. She started coping in the group chat by spinning a new story, "Simon is selfish." Simon forgot what family means. Simon thinks money makes him better. I quickly learned you can't outdebate a story someone needs to believe to survive. You just stop being a character in it. But sometimes, even those stories crack. 2 weeks after that Sunday lunch, Tessa called me. She was in a parking lot, and I could hear both kids fussing loudly in the background. "The stroller really doesn't fit in our car," she admitted, a kind of weary resignation in her voice I recognized from my own worst travel days. "I'm not asking for your SUV," she quickly added, almost defensively. "Do you know any deals on used minivans? Like, from your client hotels or anything?" I took a deep breath. "I know a rental company rotating out vehicles," I said. "They're reliable. I can send you contacts." She said, very, very quiet, "Thank you." "Pay them directly," I instructed, laying down the boundary. "No middlemen. No me." "Yeah," she said. "I got it." We hung up while the kids were still fussing. It didn't feel like peace, not yet. It felt like a room with a window barely cracked open. Air. Not yet a full breeze. The last ripple came from Uncle Ron. He asked me to meet him at a diner on the edge of town. You know, the kind with mediocre pie and a waitress who remembers your order if you tip well. Ron slid into the booth and didn't waste any time. "You were right," he said, pushing a mug of coffee toward me. "Your dad has a way of making decisions sound like commandments." He continued, "You never asked me for anything, so I'm going to give you something. A heads up." He told me Mom was planning a family intervention, theme, reconnecting. He said it involved a heartfelt speech, photos of the kids, and a new ask cleverly disguised as nostalgia. Don't go, he advised. Or if you go, bring the folder. I actually laughed then. For the first time, it didn't sound like a defense. It sounded like genuine breath. I didn't go to the reconnecting party. Instead, I sent flowers that politely said, "Have a lovely afternoon, Simon." I picked the plainest bouquet I could find. The card looked suspiciously like a receipt. And that was the whole point. I drove to the coast instead. Not for some dramatic sunset, but for a parking lot facing a gray sea on a gray day, where nobody, absolutely nobody, needed anything from me. I drank coffee too hot from a paper cup and watched a couple argue about a map, then laugh, because the argument was small, and their day, together, was big. I thought about the word family. I thought about "it's decided." How many years I'd let those two phrases roll over me like a hotel cart stacked with endless trays I was expected to carry. I thought about how a folder, just paper inside, can't change people. But it can absolutely change the shape of your spine when you sit at a table. My phone buzzed. A new number. A woman's voice. "Hi, this is Ms. Aguilar from the middle school. The council loved your presentation. Can we book with you for April? We heard you show up." I smiled, a genuine, wide smile. "Yes," I said. "I do." On the way back, I passed my parents' street. Because there's really only one main road home, unless you want to add 20 minutes of symbolic detour. I didn't slow down. I didn't speed up. I looked at the turn, and then I looked away. The way you pass an exit you're not taking, and your GPS doesn't scold you, because the route you're on still gets you exactly where you're going. At home, the gray folder sat on my counter. I almost threw it in the trash, then stopped. I pulled out the spreadsheet and drew a thick, definitive line across the bottom. I wrote in clear, bold letters, "No new entries," then I tucked the folder into a drawer. Not to hide it, but to put it in a place that wasn't my passenger seat, constantly haunting me. Later that week, a postcard arrived. From a client family whose flight I'd rebooked at 2 a.m. when their little one got sick in Rome. The front was a photo of their kid, holding a gelato the size of his head. The back said, "We made it. Thanks for showing up when we panicked. You saved our trip." No one had to call me cruel to make that feel small. It was just big. On its own. I wrote a note to myself and taped it to the inside of my door, where only I would ever see it. "I don't owe my silence to be loved." The next Sunday, I didn't go to lunch. I went for a long walk instead. I made pasta that tasted exactly like college, except this time I added fresh basil, just because I could. I watched a movie and didn't look at my phone once. When it finally buzzed, it was a photo from Mia, a picture of Tessa's kids, grinning, in a second-hand minivan. Crumbs already everywhere. "We did it," she wrote. "They did it," I texted back a simple thumbs up. Not because I was indifferent, but because sometimes, a small, simple answer is what a boundary looks like. Family looks out for family, Dad still says. He means, you do it for us. But I've decided it means something else entirely. It means I take care of the family I'm building. My team, my clients, the friends who show up without sending invoices, the kids in a minivan I didn't buy but helped to find. And the man in the mirror who finally learned to say no. It's decided.